I think you asked this last time, Chana. Voice of God channel versus center height. Is that what your question was?
Yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah.
What was the answer to that?
And the answer, Wilfried said the voice of God is more important, but it depends on your screen size. Like if you have a really, really wide screen, the center height might actually be better for you. But it all depends. So if you're in a living room with like a 65-inch TV, let's go with the voice of God. Get that, make that bubble, all around you.
I know, but it's like an X thing going on there.
From a content creation point of view, the voice of God is more used in the height center channel as well.
Okay.
The height center channel is, let's say, although in music they start to use it. For instance, let's say I use it as well in my demos. In that organ recording, what I mean.
Yeah.
So, that organ recording, that's like I used the height center because you feel that organ and you feel
I see.
the point as well. But they're like, this is like a nice example where you can, or like a flyover from an airplane, you really feel it hanging there in the middle. So for certain things, the height center makes sense. But let's say the voice of God is often used as well. So anyway, if you don't have the voice of God, you play it back only, let's say, over an Auro 9.1, you're not missing, let's say, that information. That voice of God channel is distributed over, let's say, your height layer, so you can feel it almost like a phantom center from your height layer.
Interesting.
Here's a good question. What's the difference between Auro 3D and Auro 2D? Because I do see that option, right? When you cycle through, it says 3D and 2D.
Where is Auro 2D coming from?
I think on the menu, right?
Yeah, it's in the menu, yeah.
Here it kind of goes, do you know about that?
Yes, in fact, the idea was, let's say, in the beginning, there was even Auro 1D, and it was more about that concept came from our codec, because our codec can be used as well for, let's say, bringing surround sound into stereo. That was Auro 2D.
Oh, gotcha.
And that Auro 1D is bringing mono of, let's say, stereo even to a
mono
file. So the Auro 2D was, but we dropped because it was for most people so confusing. They felt Auro is three-dimensional sound, and it is okay. Our technologies can be used in different ways. It has not only to be used in three-dimensional sound. We can use them perfectly in surround environments as well as in stereo.
Is there any reason to use the 2D?
He's saying like if you were wanting to listen to it on two speakers.
2D, okay. 2D for me is surround sound. Surround sound is the horizontal feel around you, so that's what we call 2D. So the idea is to use Auro's technology in a two-dimensional field, So you can bring, for instance, for the broadcast is interesting. They do still a lot of 5.1, and with our technology, you can bring a 5.1 into a stereo file. So there's a standard PCM stereo file, uncompressed audio, but our decoder can reveal of that the original mix in surround sound. It's a little bit like ProLogic works, but then in a much more enhanced way.
Okay. Don, thank you for the super chat. He says, Wilfried is the 5th panel member on the Daily Hi-Fi show. He wants you to be permanent over here. I told him, man, it's 1 o'clock over there. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, the point is, let's say, I'm so passionate about it, so I love, let's say, to share it, but I cannot do it every week,
No, it's true.
And I think in a certain moment as well, I start to repeat myself. So I think I can go for another 3-4 sessions and bring a lot of interesting new information all the time, But then we have to check
space them out.
Yeah. Time, because I prepared for this session really interesting hearing stuff, example stuff. But the fact that I cannot share it now, so what I'm supposing is Joe or Chana, I send those files to you. You bring them like on a YouTube. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, we can put it on a YouTube video.
We can do a YouTube video. I mean, these people are still wanting that the slideshow PDF, I guess. And,
yes, I was
cut down one,
but I don't have it finished yet.
Don't worry, it's not a homework assignment. You've already done a lot, so whenever it's ready, then it's ready. I have personally one more question, and I will promise to shut up.
And I've got one after that.
He's not going to shut up.
I'm not. Yeah, that's true. Too many questions. So, would you say that a dead room is more optimal for Auro setup because you are recreating the reflections in a certain way, and to minimize a double reflection? So the reflection that you create and also the reflection that my room creates. Would you say that a dead room is more appropriate for Auro?
Yeah, but that's not specifically for Auro. In fact, it's, let's say, for surround sound, the same thing. In surround sound environment, you hear more. Let's say, you hear more is not the right way of saying.
Hear more, feel more.
You have, that's right. You have more control over, let's say, when the sound of the reflections of the room are not, let's say, getting of too much importance. Yeah, so it's always better, let's say, to have an acoustic which is absorbing in a very natural way the full spectrum. And of course, when the room becomes too dry, you have another problem as well. Yeah, so there is like a balance in between. And what I found interesting is the following: when you have a ceiling which is reflective, that's an interesting thing. If your ceiling is dry, let's say if you're like absorption on your ceiling, or the ceiling is reflective, that makes a little bit of difference. So I like to have, let's say, no reflective ceilings. But for instance, if you use our soundbar, which has we have developed at this moment the most advanced soundbar with virtualized technology, then it needs to be reflective.
Sure, right.
So it all depends. Yeah, what are you going to do? But if you have, let's say, a typical home cinema theater at CEDIA, the CEDIA group, there is a lot of information about how to get a good acoustics around. Yeah. And let's say a kind of an absorption helps as well to give more control over what's coming out of the speakers.